What's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sports fans? This your boy JB, host of the Behind the Bench podcast network and channel. Giving a shout out to the rest of the crew: Shad, Kelvin, KB Film Room, Big Dog Talk Sports. That's right, that's right. For everyone who's tuning in, thank you for supporting Behind the Bench. Subscribe to the channel. Help make the show the best that it can be. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's get right to it. There's no time to waste, no waste of time. I wanted to share something. And this capsulizes everything that I felt about this situation and how intuition spoke to me, as well as a handful of other fans of this story franchise, the Purple and Gold Laker Nation, the Los Angeles Lakers. And immediately we knew, let me put it this way, based on precedents and recent history over the past decade, that we would have been better off maintaining the course that was set for us to take and that was meant for us to take. Now, when the Lakers signed one LBJ, aka the Hurricane, LeBron James, I know his fans may not like that reference when I say Hurricane, but that's how this whole experience, that's what it has felt like, that's what it's been looking like. A hurricane literally obliterates your foundation and disperses like it never happened and like it never hit. Now, when this first started in the summer of 2018, we were told that the Lakers were now relevant again. But what's funny is, I remember this. During the 2017-2018 season, the real Lakers, the young core, do you know they drew more home sellout crowds as a whole than anything we've seen over the past 6 years, now entering year 7. Maybe outside of the year where all the chips were thrown in the middle of the table. Outside of that year, I've seen a lot of half-empty crowd in attendance since the year of the bubble. And this goes beyond. I'm not talking about during the COVID where, the year after the 1920 season, where only a small segment of fans can attend home games. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about every year beyond. The young core generated more sellout crowds. There was more excitement in the crowds, more enthusiasm, more natural rapport. The energy was genuine and authentic. It wasn't forced. They told us in year 1 that he was going to lead the Lakers and the young core to the Western Conference Finals. And on 3 other occasions, the Lakers were predicted to advance to the finals and to win it all. This has been the repetitive, constant cycle since all this began. It's been more bark than bite. It's been more hype than substance. That's what this experience has been. And when I share this information to everyone who's tuning in, it should make you feel numb and say, wow, this can't be real, but it is. They told us that bringing this man to the team, now mind you, he was 34 years old when they signed him. So despite or regardless of whether I wanted him to be brought to the team or not, he was 34 when they signed him. So you're already operating under his timeline. So now your focus, your thought process changes at the drop of a hat. And when everything was set for you to basically operate in cruise control because you did all the hard work up front, instead of allowing the cake to bake all the way, they took the cake out early of the oven. And when I break this down, it's mind-boggling. And it just shows proof that the franchise ultimately sold itself short. They said we in win now mode. But the reality is we not winning and we haven't been winning. Outside of that 1 year, but it's at the expense of what we should have had, could have had, would have had. For a decade plus. Because as I constantly allude to, I never referred to the young core as the end-all be-all, but they were the foundation. That's the most important fabric of anything, element of anything that we build. The foundation has to be set first. The stronger the foundation, the greater chance of whatever you build on top of that foundation will stay intact for years to come. The foundation has been taken away, and therefore, every season is hoping and wishing. Frustration, uncertainty, panic. You know what I mean? A lot of negative emotions. But it's masqueraded by the notion that the franchise is relevant again because we had down years, for about 5 seasons. But if you really look at it, if you really break down the 5 seasons that we were supposedly had been down, okay, you can sit there and say, we went to the playoffs in 2013. That was the year that Dwight Howard played for the Lakers for that one season after we traded for him. Okay. So we lost in the first round to the San Antonio Spurs, and we lost in 4 games. We got swept. But Kobe Bryant injured his Achilles about 2 weeks before the playoffs were set to start, before the playoffs started. So it stands to reason, number one, if Kobe had not suffered an Achilles injury, they would not have finished as the 7th seed, and they would not have gotten swept in the playoffs. The probability of them getting swept would have been minuscule. And I'm not saying we would have won the title that year because I don't think that team was good enough to win the championship, because we brought in an older Steve Nash who was already dealing with back issues, and then Dwight Howard was coming off of a back surgery, right? So I didn't see that team winning the championship. But nonetheless, if Kobe had not injured his Achilles, I could see them making the playoffs the following year, right? But once he injured his Achilles, Dwight Howard went to go sign with the Houston Rockets. Then remember, Paul Gasol went to go play for the Chicago Bulls as a free agent. And then eventually even Ron Artest left and went to go play for, I believe, the New York Knicks. So quite naturally we were going to hit the bottom, especially with Kobe Bryant being out the rest of the season and well into the next season. So my point is, if you really break it down, the team never would have collapsed the way it did if Kobe had not suffered an injury and if the Chris Paul trade had not been blocked in 2011. So there's a reason why the team declined the way it did. It wasn't like happenstance or all of a sudden the front office just didn't know what they was doing. No, it wasn't that. It was circumstances outside of the organization's control that led to them eventually having to start over. Okay. So in retrospect, it was really 3 years where you can say the team was really down. But when you start building the franchise back up with the young talent, optimism eventually superseded the down years because we knew we had a future in store. And you knew the young core was going to get better as the years progressed because everybody else, every other team out there, organization who started over by drafting young talent and built their young talent up and developed their young talent, they got better. So I know we would have got better. So let's get back to the 6 years since they brought this man to the team. In year one, they finished with a record of 37-45. That's 8 games under 500. So let's see, the LBJ era with the Lakers started off behind the 8 ball. It started off not meeting expectations. So you already knew how this was going to play out in the end, where you may get one good season out of this, but it's at the expense of what you should have had. Okay, so you go to year 2, they trade for AD, right? They trade for Anthony Davis, and they brought in a lot of veterans. They brought back Dwight Howard only after DeMarcus Cousins, because they signed DeMarcus Cousins that offseason, which they should have done the season before with the to help anchor and support the young core. He injured his ACL during the offseason, and he was out the whole year. That's why they signed Dwight Howard. He was not the first choice to play the center position that year. Okay, then they brought in Danny Green. And the only reason Danny Green signed with the Lakers is because, number one, the contract they offered him. Number two, he was trying to wait to see where Kawhi Leonard was going to go. He was planning on continuing playing with, Kawhi Leonard, because they were just coming off a championship playing together in Toronto. So when Kawhi Leonard was, taking a long time to decide or announce where he was going to go, that's why Danny Green signed with the Lakers. The Lakers were not the first choice. Okay. So he signed Avery Bradley, he signed all these veterans, and they had a best season of the 6 years with this guy on the team. They went 52-19. And they won what turned out to be the bubble. I mean, that's what it was. That's what they called it. That's what they referred to it throughout the course of that whole experience. They called it the bubble. They didn't call it the NBA playoffs. They call it the bubble. Okay, the next year, they went 42-30. And he lost in the first round to the Phoenix Suns. Hold on one second. They lost to the Phoenix Suns. They finished 42-30. That's 12 games over 500. Then the next year, when they brought in all the big names, where they featured 5 top 75 all-time greatest players. The Hurricane, Anthony Davis. They traded for Russell Westbrook, who was coming off a season where he led the Washington Wizards to the playoffs without Bradley Beal, who has suffered I believe it was like a wrist injury. He missed the rest of that season And Westbrook led them to the playoffs. They lost in the first round to Philadelphia 76ers, who had the number one seed in the Eastern Conference that year. That was their best year under Embiid and Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. Okay. So he's the all-time leader in career triple-doubles, Russell Westbrook. You bring back Dwight Howard. Then you sign Carmelo Anthony to be the sixth man. You bring in DeAndre Jordan. You bring back Avery Bradley. You bring back Rajon Rondo. That team was picked by Kendrick Perkins to win 70 games. And they wind up winning 33 games that year, lost 49 games, 16 games under 500, and they finished not outside of the playoffs, but outside of the play-in. Let's go to the next year. They start the season off 0-5 and then 2-10. They was on their way of missing the playoffs with this guy for the second straight year, and they got a season-saving overhaul of young players. D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, Mo Bamba, and a player from the Denver Nuggets, Darren Reed, something to that effect. And he went on a run in the playoffs and advanced to the Western Conference Finals. Although me personally, the teams that they faced in the first two rounds, the Memphis Grizzlies, they were missing a starting center, Steven Adams, who was leading the league in rebounds per game prior to him injuring his knee midway of that season, and missed the rest of the year and missed all the following year. And now he's playing for the Houston Rockets. And then Brandon Clark, the backup center, who ruptured his Achilles. So he's missing a starting center, backup center, and then John Morant was dealing with his issue in the off-court situation. And then he suffered a wrist injury, some kind of hand injury. So he wasn't, at full strength per se. And they beat Memphis in 6 games. And in the second round, conference semifinals, they beat the Golden State Warriors in 6 games. Golden State Warriors, they didn't have a big man, a true center, and Anthony Davis feasted for 6 games. I believe if Golden State would have kept James Wiseman just for defensive purposes and rebounding and shot blocking, Golden State, I'll put it this way, with them having home court that series, that would have won 7 games. And then let the best team win. I ended with that. And then they ran to the Denver Nuggets, who beat them in 4 straight. And Denver went on to win the championship. Last year, this past season, they re-signed a lot of them players that they received in the mid-season overhaul. Then they signed a lot of young players. Cam Reddish, Gabe Vincent, Jackson Hayes, Taurean Prince, Christian Wood. They signed like 5 or 6 players during that offseason. And then the talking head said they had the best offseason any team in the league. They finally had the roster. They had the wing presence. They had the shooting. They had the defenders on the perimeter. Now they have the bigs, the rim protectors to help out Anthony Davis. They said all of that. Deepest roster in the league. They're going to win the championship. And they finished with a record of 47-35. And they lost in the first round. They had to advance through the play-in to get to the postseason once again. And they lost to the Denver Nuggets in the gentleman's sweep. It looked like really by game 4 that Denver was like they was tired of beating them, and they let them get one. Then Jamal Murray broke their heart twice in that series, hitting 2 game-winning shots. And then you go into this year, you have a new head coach. Also, they've had 4 head coaches now since all this started. Luke Walton, Frank Vogel, Darvin Ham, and now J.J. Redick. This year they start off 3-0 Everybody was ranting and raving. Well, you know, a lot of the talking heads were ranting and raving, saying, "Oh, JJ Reddy, he's a mastermind and all this," knowing good and well he didn't have no head coaching experience, and now it's showing. Now it is showing full fledged. And after 25 games, the Lakers have a worse record at this point, this current season, than he did last year. Last year they was 15-10 after 25 games. This year they 13-12. So I want everybody to listen, check this out. So since all this started, as of right now, with the Hurricane on the team, supposed to be the savior, helping make the franchise relevant again. We supposed to be in win now. That, you know, every year this team is going to be in championship contention or vie for the championship or pick to win the championship. All this talk. As of right now, they have 267 wins, 229 losses, for a winning percentage of 53%. That's including the year of the bubble. You take out the year of the bubble, where they finished 52-19, 33 games over 500. You take that season out the equation, they have a record of 215 wins, 210 losses, with a winning percentage of 50.5%. So basically, they have two superstars on this team. They won a couple years ago. They had three superstars on this team, franchise players. They're basically a 500 team with the Hurricane so-called leading the way, dictating moves, getting players traded, hocking away draft picks out of sight, siphoning off the let me see, undermining the team's salary cap to try to get X amount of players to sign for the cheap to pursue a quick path to the championship. Do you know now in the Western Conference, there's at least 5 to 6 teams that have a better winning percentage over the past 6 years than the Lakers with this guy on the team. The Clippers cumulatively have a better record. And I'm not saying the Clippers going to win the championship no way soon, because I believe the opportunity has passed them by. But nonetheless, there was a point where the Clippers beat the Lakers like 11, 12 straight games? The Denver Nuggets. Until, let me put it this way. Since the bubble season, they have not been able to finish outside of the play-in, meaning a top 6 seed. When you have two superstars on the team, they say 2 top 10 players, a top 5 player in the proverbial GOAT, there's no way in the world that you should not be able to win 50 games. Jokic led his team to the playoffs for 2 straight years with his second and third best player out of the lineup due to injury. That's why he was winning them league MVPs. He was getting his team to the playoffs. Steph Curry with a Klay Thompson coming off of ACL and an Achilles. Steph Curry, with no other superstars on that team, led Golden State to the championship in 2022. The Memphis Grizzlies, and they're the number 2 seed again. They were the number 2 seed 2 years straight. The Phoenix Suns went to the finals in 2021, and then the following year they had the best record in the league and the best single season win total in franchise history with 64 wins. And now here come the Oklahoma City Thunder. And at one point, the New Orleans Pelicans made the playoffs in 2022, and the Lakers did not even make the play-in. And Brandon Ingram's first playoff experience against the Phoenix Suns, he averaged 27, 7, and 7, and had 4 straight games where he got scored 30 points. And this was without Zion Williamson. And then going into that next year, about 35 games into that season, the 22-23 season, the New Orleans Pelicans reached the top, first place in the Western Conference. They had beat the Nuggets. It was a week where they beat the Nuggets. They beat Phoenix, Sacramento, and they beat another top Western Conference team to reach first place. That's the game where Zion Williamson, they beat the Phoenix Suns at home, and then Zion did like a crazy windmill dunk. Then after that, everybody on that roster got hurt, and they did not make the playoffs that year, only due to injury. If that team was relatively healthy the whole way since that trade went down, they could at least made a conference finals by now. So what I'm trying to say is, when you mortgage, this is proof right here that the decade was mortgaged off. This is not like when the Lakers traded for Paul Gasol in 2008. Prior to that trade, the Lakers were in first place in the Pacific Division, and I believe they had a record of like 30 wins and 11 losses. That was literally midway through the season. And the reason why they traded for Paul Gasol is because Andrew Bynum has suffered that first major knee injury, where he missed the rest of the year. And they went to the finals. They was ahead of schedule. Now, they lost to Boston, now don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, the Lakers were not even expected to make it that far that year. They played ahead of schedule. Then they won back-to-back championships. So when they went for the three-peat, they lost to Dallas in the playoffs, but they was a number 2 seed. They had a run where they had a marginal decline, like a championship run where you peak, you win, and then the attrition, teams get better, and eventually, someone overtakes you. But they didn't just fall off the map. You see what I'm saying? So in 6 years, going into this 7th year, they have a winning percentage of 53%. That's including the year of the bubble. You take that out the mix, they have a record of 215 wins, 210 losses, for a winning percentage of 50.5. That is average. That is average. But other teams out here getting it done. Boston out here, they got the second best record in the Eastern Conference, third best record in the league. They like 20-5, something like that. They had the best record in the league last year. They won 64 games, one of the best seasons in their franchise's history, and they went on to win a championship. And they've been, even when Celtics were losing the playoffs or getting upset in the playoffs, they stuck with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and they added key pieces while they were still drafting talent in Peyton Pritchard, what's his name? Sam Hauser. They kept drafting talent, and they made key pieces, and now they set to make a run. Milwaukee, after the championship 4 years ago, okay, they didn't repeat. Chris Middleton hurt his knee that following year, and he's just trying to come back now. But they haven't just fallen off the map. You see what I'm saying? This team basically is operating at an arc that's worse than what the Lakers would have had with their real team. See, the real team would not have won in 2020, but they would have steadily been progressing and improving and building properly step by step to where will we see with the OKCs and the Memphis Grizzlies and team like that, and now the Houston Rockets, the Lakers would have reached that point 4 years ago. And we had deeper talent. We drafted the best mid-range shooter in basketball under 30 years old in Brandon Ingram. The best pound-for-pound rebounder in the NBA in Josh Hart. The best clutch shooter in basketball percentage-wise for a non-starter six-man level player in Kyle Kuzma. Percentage-wise, he was until this year where, Kyle Kuzma he done pretty much checked out of Washington because he never should have been traded to the Wizards. But we all know who got him traded. But those first 2 years of Washington, he was the best clutch shooter. He had the best clutch shooting percentage of any player in the NBA, and that includes superstars. We drafted a sixth man of the year in Jordan Clarkson. We drafted a player, two-time NBA, a left-handed power forward who averaged 24, 10, and 6. First player to do that while shooting 40% from three and 8% from the free throw line since Larry Bird and Julius Randle. And every time he played Anthony Davis, they basically played toe-to-toe. Like the other night when the Lakers played the Minnesota Timberwolves. Randle and Anthony Davis basically played toe-to-toe. Lonzo Ball, before he injured his knee, he was becoming the best 3-and-D point guard in basketball during that first year with the Chicago Bulls. And he improved his shooting to such a point he was hitting 40% plus from behind the arc. That's during their Steph Curry territory. So the talent that we gave up, and then we got Ivica Zubac, who is leading the league right now in total rebounds, and is top 4 in rebounds per game. The only players that are above him in rebounds per game is superstars like Nikola Jokic, Domantas Sabonis, who led the league in triple doubles last year, and I think Giannis or somebody like that, Giannis Antetokounmpo. The talent that we gave up, man. Collectively, we be doing so good right now, and this before we get the right superstar. And this is why I say we sold ourselves short. When you break that metric down, basically outside of 1 year, this team is 500. They've had 2 losing seasons, right? They didn't even make the playoffs, and they got 2 years where they got eliminated in the first round. And right now, they're a game above 500 as this video is being made. This is about as real as it gets. All the shuffling, all the players who have been traded, all the draft picks that have been just given away like candy, the salary cap machinations to fill out a roster, all the players that they've acquired through the buyout market, all the coaches they've hired, and they essentially, fundamentally, they are in a worse position than they was before all this started. Compared to what they could have had. And that's why this shows me proof right here. We should have stayed the course. And like I said, it's like the eighth wonder of the world, man. It's going to be the greatest mystery in all the sports from this point on. What would that young core have done if they'd been allowed to grow together and represent their jersey for years and years and years and years to come in this decade of the 2020s? But the sad part about it is we'll never know. But based on the metric, based on everything I've seen, based on the eye test, what I saw that young core do the year before they brought that dude to the team, the fact that they play better defense than this team right now. They played better defense. They had a top 10 ranked defense the majority of the season. There was a faster pace team than this Laker team is because of Lonzo Ball. Number 2 pace team in the NBA, I think only behind the Houston Rockets. They were a better rebounding team. They was number 2 in the league in total rebounds, only behind the Philadelphia 76ers. I'd put up all the metrics. They had a better second unit. They had one of the top 3 scoring second units in the NBA. Think about that. You got a young, driven team. You got young players coming off the bench, and they already top 3 in points per game coming off the bench. And this was after they traded Lou Williams. to the Houston Rockets the year before to get the number 2 pick, which they used to select Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball, I pulled up his stats his rookie year. Actually, he had a better rookie season than De'Aaron Fox. Now, De'Aaron Fox was a better scorer, but that's not the type of guard that we needed. Actually, we drafted the perfect type of point guard. When you really look at it, I'm going to finish this off with this, fellas. I'm going to finish this off. His rookie year, he averaged something like 10.5 points a game, 10.7 points a game. He averaged like a half a point a game less than De'Aaron Fox. He averaged more rebounds a game than De'Aaron Fox, close to 7 rebounds a game. And he averaged more assists than De'Aaron Fox. And he darn near averaged 2 steals a game. He was averaging something like 1.7 steals a game. And he only averaged by 2.5 turnovers a game as a rookie? See, when you look at the metric, these talking heads on these sports shows, man, their mind is geared on superstars. You know, watching a certain guy stack the deck to try to help him win. But when you look at what the Lakers drafted, man, it was darn near perfection in terms of what they drafted. And if you let them gel and come together as one, where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and you bring in the right star to complete that process, I'm telling you, man, this team will be racking it up. Because they've been able to play any style that you want. See, this team right here, they can't play with one style. They got to play under this dual system. And the system bogs down team play, and players be playing a lot of position. And that's why they be looking so inconsistent out there. But that young core team, first of all, they was the most exciting team in basketball. You see what I'm saying? So by the time they finish up, you want to go fast break, we can outrun you. If you want to go mid-range, we're going to call BI number. If you want to get physical and play, what they may refer to as bully ball, we're going to call Randall number because he ain't going to back down from nobody. If you want to go big and to where we can pass it down on the block where the big man can pin his defender down in a static position, you got Zubac. If you want to stretch the flow with a big man and shoot for 3, you got Thomas Bryant. And you can still sign free agents to the team because your cap was plush. They talking about they need a defensive guard, right? They ain't got nobody who can guard the elite point guards. You had KCP. You had Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who helped lead Denver Nuggets to helped them win the championship 2 years ago. That's why I said when you break it down, we freaking had it all. They would have no winning percentage of 50.5%. It'd be in the 60s. This team, if they did it right, on average, they'd be winning 57, 58 games a year. Guaranteed. If you go back, just look at the metric. Pull the metrics up. You got the rebounder in Zubac. And tell you the truth, Clippers still don't use him right. If he played with his real team, that's a 20-point per game son. He probably averaging more rebounds than what he getting because he be getting more playing time. Telling you, dog, this is why I've been holding on to this for all these years because I knew what we gave up. And it's all traded away for one season that's like a flash in the pan, gone with the wind, and they playing 500 basketball. They essentially playing 500 basketball with this dude on team. 500. Now they begging for moves. This dude will be 40 years old. Anthony Davis be 32 years old. This team is flawed, not because of the front office, it's because of the nature of how this guy played. That's why it's flawed. And the front office, for some reason, they haven't figured it out yet. That's why I need to put an end to this fiasco and get control. And don't go down this route again because they're going to have to rebuild sooner or later and start from scratch. So I just wanted to drop this nugget until next time JB for BTB behind the bench.